What's really stopping you from publishing your book? So I know that question might have triggered a few people. It might cause a few to think. And I think a lot of you are saying, I really just don't know where to start. And this video is going to help you with that. So I've had these notes sitting down for months, planning to make this video to help you to actually know where you're going to start if you plan to publish your book. Just to make a disclaimer before we go anywhere else, I am Jamaican, and I have published within my country. So a lot of this information would be most relevant for Jamaicans, but to be honest, I've made it so that it would be helpful for anyone almost anywhere in the world, right? So this video is going to be a complete guide to self-publishing your book. So that's another disclaimer. This is about self-publishing your book, right? Of course, some of the information would still apply if you're going to choose to find a publisher or an agent to help you get it traditionally published as well. So if you think this video is going to be something that you can use in your writing journey, then stick around. There's so much information that I'm going to cover here today. So I've been going to, like, over last year, I've been to a lot of functions, I've met a lot of people, I've introduced my own personal work to a lot of people. I actually published my first book the year before last year, but I didn't market it at all. I guess it was just a confidence issue. And then I published two more poetry collections, and then I started marketing. And I've gone to some places, probably setting up a booth to showcase my books and stuff like that. And I typically meet artisans or other persons who are writers who are saying that, hey, how did you publish your book? Or they'll mention that they have a manuscript and they're not sure what to do with it or how to get started with it. And this is the reality. I won't say that self publishing is hard. And it's not hard for the sake of being hard. It's just a matter that it has a lot of steps that you have to take in order to get it right. Because if you're self publishing, then it's really just you. Although you do or you are able to get help with a lot of the steps, but sometimes it would have to cost you more than, say, for instance, if you were to get a traditional publisher because they'd take care of almost everything for you. You just have to write. In some cases, you'd probably have to help with marketing as well, right? So this video is going to cover 8 steps. So the first one would be the foundation, preparing your manuscript. You have to have something written to actually publish. Then 2, protecting your intellectual property. 3, the strategic ISBN and imprint decision. 4, professional interior formatting and cover design. 5, platform setup and global distribution. 6, finance and operations, getting paid. 7, launch strategy and ongoing marketing. And 8, building an author business, not just a book. All right, so that's all we're going to cover today. I have my little tablet here. I had the notes written down, and for the life of me, I was searching for the book this morning, and then I remember that, hey, I actually had it on my computer, and I had to put together something really quickly. Um, with I use Claude to create the presentation. I'm actually going to do a video on that, probably at some point, how to make quick presentations when you're strapped for time using there's a few AI tools that you can use. That's just something. I know a lot of writers are very anti-AI. Um, but that's something I'm also going to discuss in the whole publishing, self-publishing and publishing your book video as well. But yeah. All right. I've gone on off track, back on track. Self-publishing your book. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to need, why is this slide not skipping? Okay, back in business. All right, you're going to have to prepare your manuscript. So the manuscript is just, oh yeah, I taught this when I was talking about base words and root words. That manu means hand and script means to write. So to write by hand. Of course, that is not necessarily true for this day and age. Your manuscript can be typed, but originally your manuscript would have been handwritten and presented to the publisher, right? So this is just your, let's say, your complete written document. All right. Typically, it would go through several stages before it's actually ready for publishing, but you have to have a complete body of work before you even start thinking about publishing. So that's the first thing. Let's get that out of the way. And your editing of the document would go through 3 stages. Typically, if you have a literary agent or a publisher, there would be someone assigned to you who is going to help you with that, send you back your manuscript for you to fix and stuff like that. Of course, if you're self-publishing, you won't have those luxuries. So you're going to have to do it yourself or find editors, proofreaders, people to help you with editing your manuscript. So the first thing is the developmental edit. So this has to do with like plot and structure and pacing. So this is one of the upsides of if you're going to go with a publisher or have an agent. A lot of the times, if you're writing within a particular niche or a particular field, the people who are in that field will know what works. So you will say, for instance, you have a story like a fiction novel and it's romance. They might tell you that, hey, maybe start the story with this chapter and do a foreshadowing instead of starting with this chapter, right? So, or they might tell you to amplify the plot a little to include more elements that they believe would work well with an audience. All right, so that's typically what happens in the developmental stage. It has to do with your structure, your plot. Everything that you do is not necessary, because I write poetry, so it's not necessarily going to be like you have a plot like a story. But for instance, with my poems, I tend to try to follow a sense of progression. So I would start my book with a lot of softer poems, and then in the middle, like all the heightened emotions would come in the middle, and then I soften it back at the end. So that's something that would typically happen in the developmental edit stage, because I'd have to choose like which poems are going to go first and which ones are going to be in the middle, which ones are going to be at the end. So it doesn't have to just be for fiction, it can work for non-fiction, even for academic work. So if you're talking about the body, you might decide that, hey, I'm going to talk about the head and then the neck and then, or the outside of your body and then the inside, whatever it is. That would happen in the development edit stage, because you're just writing and now it's just making it make sense. All right. Then you have your copy edit. So now here is a part where you're really just proofreading for like grammar and clarity. Is there a sentence that's too long? It just really has to do with the grammar and the mechanics. It doesn't matter how perfect you are or how people want to act on social media. Everybody makes grammatical errors and mistakes. You're going to overlook them. I've read books. I think I was reading, was that Toni Morrison book? I think I was reading Waiting to Exhale, and I'm sure I saw at least 2 or 3 grammatical errors. And that's a book that goes through processing. And if there are grammatical errors there, you can imagine that most persons will have grammatical errors. And even in the age of AI, even when you probably ask AI to proofread your work and fix the grammar, you still might end up with grammatical errors. All right. So that's why it's always good to have a second pair of eyes to actually go through your work to fix those grammatical errors. And then you have the proofreading stage. So this is, let's say, the final stage. And it's just those, those little final typos, things like that. We just want to get that out of the way. And of course, even though these are the three stages, this doesn't mean that you're going to have three drafts. Some people end up with 10, 20 drafts before it's perfect, because it can go through the stage, and when it reach polishing stage, somebody might realize that, hey, it needs something else. All right. And then, but after you do all of that and you have everything finished, then you can safely move on to your next stage, which is your intellectual property rights, right? And you want to protect that. And you do that through copywriting, all right? So, copywriting, all right. So, for instance, Jamaica, and I think Jamaica is one of the 180 countries that are under the Berne Convention. You will have to do your research on that. But basically, it just says that, hey, once you're the original author, it is copywritten. That's why, or not copywritten, copyrighted. Because that's why people can probably post things on social media, and then an artist creates a song and they can bring them to court. Even though they never had any like legal documentation to say that they wrote it or created it, once you created it and you can prove that you're the original creator, it is copyright within countries under the Berne Convention. All right. But outside of that, you always want to have as many layers of protection as you possibly can. And the next cheapest way to be copyright or to be copyrighted is through the poor man's copyright. So this has to do with, you can go to your post office, your local post office, and just mail it to yourself. You mail it to yourself, you have a sealed document, and it's dated, so you know that here I have the first copy of this book. You can also email it to yourself, and that would suffice as well. But of course, you have even more layers of protection. For instance, in Jamaica, you have Jam Copy, which you can submit a copy of your work to, and that would show that you are the original creator of the work. Of course, every country is going to have their own thing, but that's just a basic overview of copywriting. All right, so you already know, you already did two things. You're finished right, you're copyrighted, and you know what? You still have another step that you have to take. So now here we have the ISBN. All right, so I'm going to read what an ISBN is. So it's the International Standard Book Number, and it's a unique identifier for each format of your book: paperback, ebook, hardcover. All right, so in Jamaica, if you go online and you look up the price or prices for ISBN, they might be very expensive. But just to put you on game, if you are part of the Commonwealth, you can get Commonwealth. If you're part of CARICOM, if you're in Jamaica or Trinidad or Barbados, any of those countries that are within CARICOM, you can get your ISBN for your book for cheap. So I think when I did it, I could have gotten 10 ISBNs for, I think it was $50 in Jamaica, 50 US dollars in Jamaica. But I believe they probably raised it a bit to about $75 for 10. Trust me, it's more expensive online. So yeah. Oh, yeah, and I think in Canada, Canadian citizens, they get theirs for free. So you, whatever country you're in, you can do your research to see if your government provides a cheap alternative to buying ISBNs online, because they can be expensive. And it's important to note If you see me looking at this and you're wondering why, it's because it's charging and it keeps disconnecting. So yeah, I'm just making sure that it's still working. So if you can check with the government to see if there's a cheap alternative, because a lot of countries do want to encourage creation. All right, so that's something that you can always think about. um what was I saying again? I was saying something else. I think it slipped me. um hmm. But outside of that, if you go on, for instance, I will talk about publishing online later on, but if you go on some sites, including Amazon, they give you a free ISBN. I would suggest that you do not use their ISBN, because if you use their ISBN, it kind of becomes their property. All right. So if you decide at any point that, hey, I'm not just going to be on Amazon, I'm going to publish on Ingram Sparks or another platform or whatever, then you have a problem because you can't move their ISBN from there to somewhere else. Of course, if it belongs to you, you can do whatever you want. If you don't like what's going on Amazon, you can take it down, carry it elsewhere, no problem, because it's your ISBN. All right, and it's under your name and it's protected. And it's important to note, oh yes, I remember what I was thinking now. Um, for the ISBN, you need an ISBN for every format of your book. So when I said that, hey, I had 10 ISBNs, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna have one for every single book. I'm gonna have one for every single format of my book. So currently my books are in three. I think the first one is in four formats, because Kindle is different from ebook apparently. So I even had to update that on my KDP, that's Kindle Direct Publishing account, because ebook is different from Kindle apparently. All right. So you have to get one for every version. You know, it's a registration. It's like you're registering a baby or anything, and it's quadruplets. Okay, so they all have to have their own ISBN number. So that's basically it. Yeah, and the ISBN number, you it's very easy for you to create a barcode from it. You're going to need to create a barcode using your ISBN number, because you're going to have to print that and you're going to have it on your book. All right. Am I missing anything about the ISBN code? I don't think so. So this is the thing. It's just a matter of keeping record and it being professional. So person, can I skip it out? You possibly can. But then think about if you're going to put it in a bookstore or in a school or wherever. Somebody is going to vet that. Somebody might vet that. And if you don't have it, it's going to like not be professional. So get your ISBN codes. All right, guys. Then you have, am I missing something? No. Then you have four, which is the professional interior formatting and cover design. All right. So even if you do everything else, a lot of persons will get a graphic designer, or someone who can format to do this, to their cover, because that's the first thing people see, your cover. All right. Uh, there are many platforms that you can use to design your cover when you're just starting out, because you might not have a big budget. For my first book, I used Canva. All right. Uh, and yeah, but I use Canva a lot, so I think I did a stellar job with my cover. Uh, so of course I think you can still use like Microsoft Publisher, because most persons have Microsoft. I don't think it matters the tool, really. It's just the designer. Are you a good designer? If you are, create a cover. If not, or sometimes you probably just don't have the inspiration, get help from someone else. I know someone who writes, and they always get the local artists to draw a picture for their cover. Uh you can use a, this is the thing, if you're going to use an AI image on your cover, I would suggest not just going into ChatGPT and putting the title and the picture and what you want it to look like and just using that as your cover. I'm okay with AI elements personally, because as a graphic designer, typically you'd have to get pictures from elsewhere, and I would just use it from that perspective, right? But of course, there are many legalities around using AI uh, that are still going through court and everything, because the consensus is that some of these AI companies are using things and not paying creators. So when you generate an image of someone, it might be pulling elements from different art pieces. And of course, the ethics of that is being debated. I'm going to be honest, I have used AI images on my cover, but because of the new information, I am considering editing them. But this is the thing. Your cover don't have to be anything elaborate, especially if you're not going to have like a romance novel, where you need to show that, because that's a big thing for romance novel. I think even for me, for poetry, a lot of poetry books that I see is just black and white. Um, so depending on what you want to do, you don't need the excitement. Sometimes simplicity is key, but don't believe that because it's simple, it doesn't take effort. Even if you just want the cover with just the words and it's a solid black or a solid blue or whatever, and graphic designer is going to know how to format it and to place the words and everything on the page. If you don't know anything about design, you're probably not going to do it in the best way. And as I mentioned before, if you want something and you can afford it, listen, personally, I think a lot of, especially local persons, if you're living in Jamaica, they won't charge a lot to draw something or paint something for you. And it also helps. So you're an artist and you're helping another artist by giving them work as well. So that's something to consider. So your local painter, um, person who can draw, a graphic designer, support them as well with the cover. Um, you might need something for interior as well. You have to ensure that you format it nice. All right. KDP does have a platform that you can use to format your book, and it's very easy to use. You can also use Word or Canva or any word processing software to format your book. As I said, it's not the tools, it's the designer. All right. So if you know that you are not going to have the diligence to actually put things together in the right way, then get someone to do it for you, to be honest. Because even with um going back to the cover, it's very specific. It has to have a resolution of 300 dpi. You have to change it from CMYK, from RGB to CMYK for the color mode. That's very important, and some persons don't know that, because even if you're in Canva, you're downloading the image, you might not check to ensure that the color mode is in CMYK. And if you still have it in RGB, you might notice that when it's printed, the colors are not the same. All right. So that's because not all the colors that can be displayed on a screen can't necessarily be printed. You have to ensure that you have a bleed and a safe zone, so you can't have your words catch over on the side of the page. When it's being cut, they might be cut off. So there's a lot of technicalities that go into it. You can do your research to get it done. I might do some other videos so that I can be more specific, but I don't know yet. I don't know yet because it took me so long to do this. But I'm gonna, of course, be helping persons, so I will create more videos in the future to cover those things for persons who want to create their covers themselves. The next thing is 5. All right, you have your cover, everything. Now your book, everything is put together. you're good. You have a book, right? So this is the thing. You don't even have to put it online. If you know a printer, you have a PDF version of the book and the cover match the PDF version of the is aligned based on size with the PDF version of the book, you can go to a printer. And most printers will help you as well because there's a specific way you have to do the cover to ensure that you have to really calculate the number of pages to get the right spine design. So that's something that you have to go through, and most printers will help you with that. You have a book, you can go to a local printer, get them to print it for you. You're gonna lead, really. But what you can do is put it online. So I've used Amazon KDP to upload my books. I'm going to try Ingram as well. The challenge is it's asking for some American information, like I have to have an American phone number. So I'm not sure how effective it will be for a Jamaican. I'm not sure if I get like my sister or someone to create it for me, what would be the steps. So I can't give you a lot of advice on that now. I know a lot of persons prefer to use Ingram Sparks because it they don't have as many restrictions as Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, right? I think one of them is their return policy is better. So if people want to return their books, it's not as big as a challenge as it is with Amazon. And also Ingram Sparks uh putties putties put your book in bookstores and stuff, and I think the royalties is better. Don't quote me on it. I know most people don't use Amazon KDP because the royalties are, and you have to wait, even when your books are bought, you have to wait, I think, 60 days to get paid for your books. It can be a lot. I'm going to tell you this though. I don't have a problem with using Amazon Kindle Direct Publisher because a lot of how the system is set up, it does a lot of work for you. So for instance, it will check to ensure that your cover is A1. So you will get some notices if the cover can't go through, whatever it is. All right. You will get all that information. It will calculate what your spine width needs to be for you. They actually review it to ensure that it's publishable, all of that, right? And the other plus side is you can get the author copies of your book cheaply. So if it is a case, so for instance, in Jamaica, getting a book printed can be extremely expensive. And even if you do everything yourself, what hurts a lot of people is buying the books, because in order for you to get the books at a reasonable rate, you would probably have to order 100 copies or more. Depending on how you're starting, you might not have a market for 100 or 500 or 1,000 books right away, right? You might not have the budget to purchase them also. So when you have it on Amazon, you can get the books to relatively cheaper. I'm going to do a video on that. That would be very Jamaica specific to show how it works out. But that's one upside, or that's the main upside that I see for me. So you can get the author copies and then publish it locally. Distribute it locally. All right. So it can make up for the losses you're going to have with Amazon. All right, because they're going to take a bulk of the money. It's going to take you long for you to get it. But if you're making $3 off every book on Amazon, and then you can make $10 off every book that you're distributing locally, then it kind of works out. So that's something that I would mention. All right. So now the book publish. So I don't even have to do 6 to 8, to be honest, but just some additional information. All right, so it just has to do with your finances, right? And I mentioned some of that when I was talking about Amazon. So you have to choose your rate of royalty. So it can be between 35 to 70% royalties that you get back. But if you choose the 70%, they won't distribute. There's some distributing limitations for your book, right? And then you have to think about what the royalties will be. Because remember, what you put on the price that you put up on like Amazon, they're going to take out the shipping and the cost to produce a book. And remember, a big part of the reason why it can be so expensive is because creating one individual book to publish to someone, you see how that kind of works, right? As opposed to if you're doing a bulk of them on a printer. All right, so yeah, just laying that out there. So it's not like when you put the book for $15, it might cost $5 to create the book, and then Amazon is going to want their share, and then their shipping, all of that. All right. So those are all the things to consider. See my mic turn off. It's a good thing I was shouting. That's why I kept looking at it. So hopefully it wasn't that low for just a while ago. All right. Then and even if you're doing it locally, when you're doing your book, and this is the thing, when I first published my book, right? I think I was selling my book for like 1,800 Jamaican dollars, which I think is more affordable for persons, especially considering that, as I mentioned, it's some degree cheaper. And I have a good relationship with where my um place that I get things from overseas. So I don't usually pay a lot of money and stuff like that. But you have to calculate everything. And if you did everything to create a book, you're not just thinking about the profit that you're making, you have to think about the fact that you're paying yourself, right? And especially when it got to the marketing phase, when I was like going to booths and in booths, when I was creating my own booths and going to markets and all of that, you have to consider transportation, food, rental, all of that. So all of that goes into the cost of the book. So you have to be very mindful about how you're pricing the book, and also check what the market rate is. So your book shouldn't be way more expensive than what a book typically costs, and it shouldn't be way cheaper than what a book typically costs as well. So try to find out what the market value for the books are. All right, because you don't necessarily have to go through Amazon or Ingram Sparks or any of those, as I mentioned, and it can also be very technical for Jamaicans or persons outside of the US, because back to the whole finance thing, you have to fill out a non-US author form, which is called a W88EN form. So yeah, so you have to consider taxes because this is a business that you're running at this point, right? So yeah, and you have to, so the fact that you have to consider taxes mean that you have to consider that in your pricing as well. Then, oh yeah, and I might have to go through the whole financing part of it in detail as well. Now we are on at 7, and this is about launch strategy and ongoing marketing. So I'm going to mention that one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my writing was, I'm going to use the next mic because this one keeps dying. I think it needs to be charged. All right. So one of the biggest mistakes I made is that I launched my book and then I started marketing. I would not suggest that for someone else. If you are a hairdresser and you're going to be creating a book about hairdressing, start marketing your content before. And it doesn't have to be social media, because we're in an age of social media. We think everything has to incorporate social media. Connect with your community It could be individually. Start having a relationship with distributors and bookstores and whatever it is, whatever is most comfortable for you, right? And then you can tell people like, hey, I'm publishing a book on this, right? And it's also, especially if you're doing something non-fiction, this would also be helpful if it's a case where you want to find out if this book will really work, if this book is really necessary, if this is something that people want, right? So if you're thinking about writing a book but you don't know what makes sense yet, this is an excellent opportunity to actually do some field research by actually becoming a part of the community and creating the community. I know it's very tempting to want to just do it and finish it and show, hey, I did this, but incorporating people in your process can be extremely helpful in you publishing your book. All right, so let's get that out of the way. Okay, you can you can pre-launch it. You can, so if you're finishing and everything, you can have the book. You not have to publish. You don't. I forgot that persons who are not Jamaican might be watching this, but you don't have to publish it the same time, right? What you can do is pre-launch it. And the thing is, if you pre-launch it, then if you pre-launch it, then you can get money to print before, so you don't have to use all of your money to get things printed. So if you have like 100 people who say that, hey, I want to get these books, then you know that your first 100 copies are already paid for, and then you only have to think about the profit and using that to fuel the next set of books, right? So that's something to consider. I know that there are a lot of sites. I haven't used any as yet. I think probably for future books I will, because I didn't know of them. But you have something called advanced reviews, and you have some sites like Book Sirens, NetGalley, or other advanced reader sites. That's why you'll hear something called ARC readers. All right, so that's talking about advanced readers, right? And what they'll do is they'll read your book ahead of time, write a review, and if they do that, then that will help, because a lot of people are doing research, want to know what people think about your book before they buy your book. And you can also find your own ARC readers. If you're an author, or if you're on a lot of writing, there are a lot of groups online. Um, Also, like, personally, I'm in a lot of groups, even on WhatsApp, with other writers. All right. As I mentioned, there are a lot of groups on Facebook, Instagram. Probably if you go to like your local university or high school, to different like literary groups, you can get people who are interested. So if you can create your own art list and get like a few people who will read your book ahead of time and write reviews as soon as it's up on your site, and they're not paying for the book, but they're enticing other people to buy your book and leaving reviews, real reviews, that can let people know that, hey, I want to be a part of this or not. All right. So, uh, as I said, when you launch, I haven't done a launch party as yet. I plan to. All right. You don't have to launch like as soon as you publish. Uh, yeah. So launch, you have to be very intense about your marketing. All right, because this is the thing. A lot of us as writers, we want to write. And this information is also important for people who are looking for traditional publishers as well. Especially a lot of the newer publishers, they're not going to do your marketing for you, or they won't do it as effectively as you'd want them to, right? A lot of the weight might or will fall on you for marketing, even if you're not self-published. In some cases, depending on the publisher that you use. Okay, so yeah, you have to do a lot of that. You have to get your own email list. I'm currently building out my email list. It's very slow, it's trickling, but I want to ensure that when I publish my next book, I have a number of people who I know are definitely interested in my work, right? So get your email list up. If you have the personality of a social media, get a social media up. Find the connections, whatever it is, because your book sales are going to depend on it. Um, After you launch it and everything, you have to go to places, bookstores, festivals, schools, libraries. You might have to do some paid ads on social media, and you have to continue writing. All right, so people can connect with you if they go to your social media page. If you're not a big social media person, you can use your email list as well to show what you're doing. Substack is really good right now for your newsletter, sending it out so you don't have to necessarily get a website. Although I would suggest that you do get a website. So yeah, those are all things to consider with your marketing, and I will cover that in another video as well. All right, and now we're on to the final stage. And as I was mentioning, number 7, marketing, that's from even before you finish your manuscript. From before you finish your manuscript. So it's not just the 7th stage per se. Marketing is a right throughout the process need and requirement. So the last thing I'm going to mention, number 8, building an author business and not just a book. All right? You have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to think like a business owner when it comes to your book if you want to be successful. Okay? So you have to establish your brand. You have to ensure that if you need help, get somebody. If you can't afford it, your little cousin, your niece who is going to university and getting their marketing degree, they probably know a little bit more than you do. Consult with them. All right, give them their and as I keep saying this, we have a global. Nothing is just on you alone. Even though I did a lot of work myself, I probably could have published years ago if I learned how to use and I don't want it to sound weird, but you have to learn to use the people around you. And it's still a learning process for me. All right. You want some consistent branding on your social media pages. Ensure that they match your book. You have a vibe that you're working with, whatever it is. It's a business. Think about your wholesale or your supermarket or the person that does hair or nails or who has a restaurant. Just like how they operate their business, you have to think in the same way when it comes to you managing your books. All right, you want the same brand consistency. You want all of that. You want to ensure that you have everything. If you can set up a separate account for it, even if you don't do it initially, try as much as possible to create a business account for it. If you can start a business for your books, especially being that you're a self-published uh author, try to get all of that as well, whatever it is. And this is the thing, it will make things so much easier for you in terms of getting certain things. So for instance, I just haven't brought them yet, but I have a partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, and they do require you to have a business, or they're going to help you to set up a business if it is that they're going to feature your books in their store. All right. So you have to consider all of these things as a self-published author. All right. And I know that this is a lot of information, right? And I can see I've spoken for what, 44 minutes, and I haven't covered everything, but that's a basic layout. As I mentioned before, you can't do everything yourself, or you might not be able to do everything yourself. So if you need help, there are a plethora of services or places that you can get help. There are local people, local artists, local who can do a cover for you. You have persons who are in journalism or publishing who know how to format a book for you. They'll know how to help you with the legalities of certain things. If you know someone who's a lawyer, there's so many people. There are people who can market, partner with. Think about people who are local to you, can place your books in their shops, in their stores. All right. I personally, I have a business, Meow Media Services, and it's really about helping small businesses roar, or cats roar with Meow Media. That's the tagline I'm working with right now, to say that even if you're a small business owner, you can still employ the practices of bigger businesses, because we're living in the digital age, right? You have so many tools that you can use to create things and structure your business so that you have something that looks and feels and is great to the eye of potential consumers. And one of the newest services I'm starting is Your Book Midwife, right? So if you're at whatever stage you are in your writing journey, if you need consultation, you can reach out to me. I will put the link in the description where I put this, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube, so you know how to reach out to me. And I'm just realizing that I have not introduced myself, which I should have done from the beginning of the video. So I am Carice Williams, and I am the owner of Meow Media Services. I'm also a teacher, and I started a community called the Writer Yard, which is a community for Caribbean poets and storytellers across the world. So we have been on an hiatus, but starting every Sunday again, we're going to start having our virtual open mic. And I'm also going to be doing PJs and poetry thing on Thursday on TikTok. But that's something I'm going to tell them soon. All right. So, yeah. All right. So go publish that book. There's no reason for you to be sitting on it. Go publish that book. And if you need help, remember, you can always reach out to me. I've done everything for my book, and I'm willing to help with whatever it is, and whatever I'm not the most savvy on. I have a community of people who I know can put together something great for you. So, yeah, reach out to me, get that book published. And thank you for listening to this video. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, this is the curious case of the creative entrepreneur.